Hi there, my crafty friends. It is Ashley Pfeiffer, the maker behind Stamped AF. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Canada, and I am bringing you a cute little treat holder, perfect for any occasion really, but I made these for my meant-to-be card class. So all of the attendees get this cute little table gift, and if you can see, it is using Powder Pink and Berry Burst, and these are 2 of the 5 outgoing in colors. Sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it? So if you are thinking of ordering any cardstock, stamp pads, re-inkers, ribbon, be sure to order them sooner rather than later before they are gone for good. Because with the upcoming annual catalog comes 5 new in colors. So I am going to take a full sheet of powder pink cardstock and we are going to cut it down to 5 inches. And remember, with the Stampin' Trimmer, the cutting blade is the darker one, and I like to keep that one at the bottom. So 5 by 4 3/4. And then just set the rest of that aside. Now we are going to move that cutting blade to the bottom and use our scoring blade. And on the short side, we are going to score at 1 inch. I like to do that a couple of times, and then we'll turn it around. It's supposed to be 1 4, but this way you'll know that it's perfectly even on both sides if you use the 1 inch mark on this side. So we will now turn it and we will score at 4 inches, 3 inches. I like to get a deep score line because I'm used to using the scoreboard tool. So I go over it a few times. So 1 inch. And then I like to turn it to do that 1/2 inch mark. So it is right here. And this is what creates our little flap. So you can fold and burnish those score lines. Feel free to use your bone folder. So where we scored there, actually, we are going to take that part right off. Otherwise our flap goes all the way to the bottom of the box, and I don't want that. So let's take that off. Close your Stampin' Trimmer and set it aside. Now that we have that glare magnet out of the way, I'm going to turn on another light. Okay, so we've got this folded and burnished. So now we can get to cutting. So we are going to cut up to the first score line on each one of these to create our tabs. And then on this 1/2 inch one, we will take that off. Just cut it straight. You don't need to notch the front of it. This box has evolved a little bit since I came up with the design. I had a template and then a prototype, and then I've kind of changed things around. So I'm gonna try and get this right on the first time. Work smart, not hard, because there are some things that I did kind of as an afterthought that would have been easier had I just done them right from the beginning. So you can see this is kind of how our box is coming together. So these top flaps we want to tuck in, and that will make a little bit more sense as we go along. So let's cut both of those top tabs down now, and we are going to do a deep notch. This is part of what is going to help this box close. Just move all that out. Now we are going to notch each one of these. And actually, before we do that, let's notch the 3rd tab as well. We will notch those, and initially when I was making this box I was notching all of the tabs, and it actually made it really difficult to get a square box by the time it was all done, because when you're folding these together, you don't have anything that is a straight line to line up your box. So I think what we will do is just leave this as it is, because it's really not adding any bulk. So a couple of things before we get to the next step. So just going to take this apart. So with your classic label punch, punch a contrasting piece of cardstock, and I had actually already filmed this video once and did some things the hard way, so I deleted that one and I figured I'd give you a brand new video that is just much easier to follow. So with any color of cardstock, preferably not powder pink, just cut another of your label punch, because as you can see, this is where our vellum goes, and this step is completely optional. I felt it added a little something to the top of the box. So line that up, because once you have this in here, it is next to impossible to center it. Take out any scrap. You're done with that. Throw out that template if you want, and we are going to glue in our little scrap of vellum, and this, you can just eyeball it. It's a 1/2 inch wide, and I think it was about just over 2 inches in length. But this doesn't have to be perfect. No part of it really does. I feel like anyone that's getting something like this is going to appreciate the fact that you made it with your own hands, so I don't think they're gonna tear it apart on you. So press very lightly so that you don't have glue seeping out either side. If you do, just take your paper piercing tool, that was hard to say, and just scrape it away. Now, when I did the video before, I started assembling here, but what we are going to do, so that we're working smarter, not harder, is we are going to do 2 things. We want to round these corners, but first we want to do this part. So just take a piece of, this is berry burst, feel free to use whatever color you would like, and line it up to a straight edge, and we'll run that through the Big Shot. You could certainly use multi-purpose adhesive sheets, but I found Tombow was enough. So run that through, just lining it up. And this is from the Be Mine stitched heart framelits, which are part of the Meant to Be bundle. So usually it lives right down here, and I've got all the scalloped hearts because they are part of my Meant to Be class. So for those attending my class today, they will each get one of these, and we will be using all of the stitch die framelits. Okay, so pretend we've run that through. We are going to run just a little strip of Tombow down here. I always find using Tombow when you're making a 3D item is the best adhesive. Just make sure you've got it right to that edge. Tombow is permanent, so this is not going anywhere once it's set. So we'll cut these little extra pieces, whoops, cut them off, just so that they're not getting in the way of aligning anything when we get into our corner rounder. And then fold those tabs under and line it up. And we've got ourselves a perfect rounded corner. Now with all of this bulk, it can be a little difficult to line it up. And if you get a little bit that you don't want on there, just use your scissors and take that off. Use a nail buffer. I always keep one on my craft table to kind of sand down any rough edges. Okay, so now we can start assembling. So what I like to do is I like to just put some glue on this tab. And then for me, the easiest one to make sure it's square is to fold the back forward. Hold that for a second and then get your other side up. And then this is going to ensure that it's square. Again, those receiving the gift probably aren't going to be as critical of it as we are of our own work, but now if you really wanted, you could wedge in here, but I don't think it's necessary. But you do you. Okay, so now again, we're gonna line that up. This is actually a lot easier than the way I had done it the last time. So I just like to hold it to make sure that that tombow is fully adhered, because you can see here, my thumb actually pulled it away. So I love with tombow that you have a little bit of time to play around. So if something like that happens, it's not stuck forever, but you do need to catch it fairly quick. Okay, so there we go. Just gonna trim down this one little piece because I think it's going to keep catching for our closure. And this is just because I cut on the wrong side of my score line. So now, oh, sorry, I should mention these are the Rockets Love Hearts, the little conversation hearts. I'm sure there are many a candy that would fit in here. And well, the vellum on top was supposed to give a little bit of a window. I do like that it's very subdued. The candy packaging doesn't take away from the design. You can tell something's in there, but it's not obtrusive. So the next step is to take a mini dimensional, and because I cut this, remember I trimmed off that 1/4 inch, our heart is going to be much higher up, which I prefer, because actually the first time I tried putting this together, the heart was too low and it wouldn't sit flat. So I should mention, now that we've got the dimensional on there and no backing, I just used a little 1/2 inch scrap of the glimmer paper with the adorable little stitched heart die from Stitched All Around. And I took that bundle out to show you. And then of course set it off to the side. So this is Stitched All Around. It's in the annual catalog. It's got some beautiful sentiments, and the thinlits in here are just incredible. I mean, this to me is a pillow, and I've used the tufted embossing folder to make a little bed, and everything is beautiful. You can get a nice stitched straight line, you can get like a cross stitch line. It's just beautiful, but the star of the show to me really is this adorable little stitched heart. And while we have the meant to be stitched heart framelits, none of them are quite this small. So we'll just run that through the Big Shot. And you don't need any adhesive on this. Pop that out of there. And look, so cute. So now all we do, tuck those flaps back in. You've got your dimensional on there. And now you're just gonna pop that on so that you don't see the dimensional. And you could leave it like that, although I'm finding it's a little bit too much pressure to keep the flap down. So I'm gonna put this away before I lose that adorable stitched heart. What I like to use is the Whisper White polka dot ribbon tool. And before you cut a length, I highly suggest just laying your ribbon down. Decide how much of a length you want. But like that should be good. You don't want to waste it. It's so pretty. It does also come in very vanilla, which is lovely. Now, what you're going to do, and the reason I had you measure it like this, is because we are going to poke a hole in here. We're going to punch a hole. So with any standard size round hole punch, I'm just going to line that up in there and punch it a few times, preferably in the same spot. Otherwise you may get a hole that's too big. And usually it takes 2 times. You can see I punched this little hole right here, so we'll cut the excess off. And now, tuck that back in. Find your hole. Just goes right here. And just kind of place it around that heart, which is probably really hard to see on this video. I apologize, it's actually pretty difficult to see in person right now too. Use your paper piercing tool if you're having trouble, like I am, getting it to go underneath. I can tell you this is the first time I've had so much trouble getting it under there. Okay, so for the millionth time, tuck that in, and now you're just gonna tie a knot. You could definitely use enough ribbon that you tie a bow, but I found that a knot was more than enough on this one. And a bow, I think, would detract from the fact that you've got your little vellum top panel. So here you can just cut off your ends, and I love with this ribbon that it's got like a built-in marker. So if you want to have 3 rows of the dots, just cut it on an angle like that. And that is all, my friends. So I'm really glad that I re-recorded that for you. This one does look a little bit shorter, but I did take off some of the bulk at the ends. So this fits it just perfectly. And thank you for watching, and I hope that you will consider hitting that big subscribe button below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. It helps me reach more people. And by subscribing, you will see a new video each and every week. Thanks for joining me, friends. Bye.